Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Comics Cube. And in today's episode, we are with Kimberly Smith, also known as HumanKimberly, the world's biggest Hank Pym fan.
It's true. It's true.
So, why are you the world's biggest Hank Pym fan?
Because I said so. No, I own every Hank Pym statue that's ever been made. I own a lot of original comic book art. I have the original appearance of Hank Pym in around here somewhere.
And you just have to look behind you, right?
Ta-da! This is some of them.
So
I'm not
why
obsessed. I'm dedicated.
why Hank Pym? Why is Hank Pym your favorite character?
Because he's crazy, and I love the crazy ones.
The Joker is crazy.
Well,
What about Hank Pym's? What is it about Hank Pym's brand of crazy?
Well, technically, the Joker is my favorite villain because he's crazy. But seriously, I can't remember when my Hank Pym love started. It's been so long, but I like him because he's not perfect, because he does have a mental illness, and it makes him unpredictable. He's not perfect like Captain America. You can always expect him to be the super Boy Scout. And I like him because he's the smart one in the sense that he created his own superpowers. He made himself into a superhero. When you look at the original Avengers, none of them did it on purpose except Iron Man, but he did it out of necessity.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And Hank Pym just basically decided he was going to give himself multiple superpowers.
Exactly. And that's what I love, the fact that he's schizophrenic, and like me, I change my hair about every 6 weeks. I love that he just changes randomly. One day he'll be Pym Wasp, and then now he's merged with Ultron, and you just never know what you're gonna get.
And which Hank Pym persona is your favorite?
I'm gonna go right now with the Pymtron
Why?
because it is so cool. Let's face it, Hank Pym was always one bad day away from becoming a full-on supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, Ultron said that he's just possessing Pym's corpse right now and that Pym is dead, but I refuse to believe that.
Of course. We keep seeing these storylines in comics where they're like, oh, we body swapped and that person is actually dead. But no, they're never dead. What so before we go to the next question, what is your favorite Pym superpower? Growing, shrinking, or shooting blasts out of his hands?
I guess his intelligence wouldn't be considered a superpower. That's a hard question, because when he shrinks, he still has the physical abilities of a full-grown man. So he's this tiny little ant, and he can grow around and just throw you across the room.
Mm-hmm.
When he grew so big that he talked to the universe. I mean, that's...
What about talking to ants? You ever find it weird that he doesn't talk to wasps?
I do find it weird that he doesn't talk to wasps.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite Pym storyline?
Okay, this is going to be a little unusual, but I know that he died during the storyline. Spoiler alert. But I really liked the Age of Ultron. Even though he did die the first issue, I liked how when Wolverine went back, they saw how the world had just gone to hell without Hank Pym. It showed Hank Pym's importance. Mm-hmm. So now when people ask me, why do you like Hank Pym so much? I'm like, look at what the Marvel Universe would be without him. We wouldn't have Jocasta, we wouldn't have Vision or Victor Mancha, Speed, Wiccan, Tigra's son William and several others. I mean, it's just like he's got his hands in everybody's cookie jar.
To you,
Other than that,
yeah.
I do like the when he was leader of the Mighty Avengers. I think that's when he was written the best, because he had so much more confidence, and he told off Mr. Fantastic. That was great. And he became Scientist Supreme. So I think that was probably the comic series where he was the best written.
To the Mighty Avengers. I think that was by Dan Slott.
Yes, it was.
So you met. Yeah, go ahead.
I cosplayed as Pym Wasp for the London Comic Con, and I went and met Dan Slott, and he was very amused that I dressed up as Pym Wasp.
So everyone who goes to him just dresses up as Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned Tigra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about Janet
Yes.
and Tigra.
He's had other love interests
And
other than Janet and Tigra.
And other love interests who aren't you in your fan fiction. So, who's your favorite?
I think Jocasta was probably the craziest because, it's kind of his granddaughter, but she's still a robot. So it's just kind of ooh all around. But I like Tigra the best.
Why Tigra?
She's not annoying like Janet. Plus, she's a giant cat, and who doesn't love cats? And they do have a son together, even though it's kind of a gray area. Technically, it's not his son, but biologically, it is his son, because it was the Skrull Pym who is technically his father. But it's still Pym's DNA.
You do have a cat. Let's mention that you are a cat lover.
I do. I have 2 cats, and they're named Problem and Trouble.
Why is Janet annoying?
Every issue, she's complaining about something that he did, or she's saying we need to talk. Woman, he doesn't need to be talking to you. He needs to be in his lab trying to cure cancer or something. She very much needs attention.
You don't think that's changed over the last 50 years?
No.
No. So, okay. Let's look at it this way. When she marries Hank Pym,
This is the craziest storyline.
he doesn't even know who he actually is, and she continues with it. How would you assess the situation?
It's not only her, it's the entire team. I mean, he attacks them with ants, and then he goes crazy on the villain, and then that was before he shows up as Yellowjacket. He says he murdered Hank Pym, and that he's going to marry Janet, and she's like, okay. And the Avengers are just okay with this. So many red flags went up, leading up to his court-martial. And it's just, nobody decided, hey, Hank, maybe you should see a therapist.
So when she finally says, I do, he's still Yellowjacket. As far as he's concerned, he's still the guy who killed Hank Pym.
Right. And I had a thought there, and then it just... Whew.
You're happily married. Well, happily. So...
I feel like she enabled him. That's what it was. She was an enabler. She knew that he was Hank Pym. She could have just been like, hey, Avengers, Captain, this is Hank. None of them knew.
She didn't even tell him.
She didn't tell him. And they're just like, okay, she's going to marry him. He murdered Hank. Just come on.
So at the time it was written, like the 60s, you think it was maybe like, oh, okay, this is like, this might be a good depiction of schizophrenia, maybe?
I don't know if they had a full grasp on schizophrenia and mental illnesses at the time. There were a lot of questionable storylines, both Marvel and DC back then. And, I think they've gotten a lot better. So for the 60s, I'm not surprised. Let's just say I'm not surprised.
But the fact is, in canon, that still happened. And now in the year 2020, when you read that story, is it even schizophrenia? Right?
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
schizophrenia? Yeah, okay.
He says later on he takes medication for schizophrenia.
Okay. Like I would assume it was something like multiple personality disorder at this or something. But anyway, so you're happily married, and would you say that that particular relationship had the foundation of a happy marriage?
Yeah, it was doomed from the beginning.
Even before the marriage?
Oh yeah.
Didn't he kind of fall for her because she reminded him of his ex-wife, his first
Yes. So
wife,
his dead wife, yes.
his dead wife?
Yes. And he loved her so much that he quit being a scientist and he was going to, just be happily married. And, then she died. And then I think that's probably when his mental illness started.
That is a great reason to date anyone new, because they remind you of your dead wife.
In her defense, she was young and stupid.
Well, in his defense, he had a mental illness.
Exactly.
So would you say Greer is better for him? Yeah?
Career?
Greer.
Over love?
No, Greer Nelson. Tigra.
Oh, Greer, yes.
Yeah.
Couldn't hear you there for a second. Yes,
Okay.
Greer. I like her because she doesn't really, she doesn't put up with this crap. She doesn't, do it in a whiny sort of way. Oh, Hank, why won't you pay attention to me? She's just like, no.
Well, it's hard to not pay attention to Tigra, so.
Yes.
And okay, so since we're talking about Janet, we have to talk about something that happened that kind of defines Hank Pym's whole thing. Let's talk about the slap. A lot of people debate this thing. Where do you fall on it?
I fall on he was mentally ill. Yes, he slapped her. Yes, it was wrong. No, she didn't deserve it, but he was mentally ill. He's not a wife beater. He had a breakdown and struck out, and he made a mistake. He apologized for it. He's been, it's been part of his character since it happened. And originally, what annoys me the most about it is that Jim Shooter did not mean for that to happen. He wrote the story as he was going to throw up his hands and accidentally hit her while throwing up his hands. But Bob Hall, being the artist that takes everything to the extreme, he drew it as a slap. And it was too late to redraw it.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, it happened. You can't change it now. They actually thought about changing it during Secret Invasion, but if they did that, then that would make him, that perfect superhero. If they went all the way back and said he was a Skrull all the way back when, and they didn't want to make him a Boy Scout. They wanted to give him that flaw.
Yeah, so sorry. So he ends up slapping her, and to put it in context, he does it in the middle of creating a robot that's going to attack all of the Avengers. So
yes. So that he can save them and be the hero. And he starts yelling at him, while he's, already crazy. And, he lashes out.
So
yeah, it was wrong.
So this is what you're saying. Like, he's one step away from being a supervillain.
Mentally unstable.
Like, he's just, like, if he snaps.
If he snaps, he probably, I could see him going supervillain.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that Hank Pym cares so much. I think he cares more than the other characters, and I think that contributes to his mental illness. So I can see him having a schizophrenic breakdown and becoming another persona altogether, which is a supervillain. But Hank Pym himself, in his original persona, I can't see him becoming a supervillain because he cares too much about what's right and what's wrong.
So he could just develop another personality
Exactly.
that can become a supervillain.
Like I always thought Yellowjacket was going to go bad because
Like whenever,
he was the worst of all of them.
yeah, whenever whenever he's Yellowjacket, like he's on the edge.
Yeah, he's always kind of a jerk.
Okay, so here's my question. There have been instances where Mr. Fantastic has deliberately slapped the Invisible Woman. Peter Parker has accidentally hit his pregnant wife across the room.
Wasn't that a clone?
No, it was Peter Parker. He was fighting with
Was
his
it?
clone. He was fighting
Oh,
with
okay.
his clone, and Mary Jane was trying to stop him, and he was like, "Stop!" and then like throws her across the room. And how the baby survived that, I don't know. But how, like, why do you think people like zoom in on Hank Pym slapping Janet and like those others let go?
Because the writers won't let go of it.
Mm.
The writers keep bringing it up, keep mentioning that it happened and that he's unstable, and if they would, they didn't dwell on the others as much.
So that's kind of become his like,
They made it a defining moment in his character.
yeah, it's kind of like his equivalent of letting the burglar who killed Uncle Ben go.
Right.
But that's weird because it happens like 20 years into his existence. Why, like, why is that such a turning point instead of like the fact that he's just this crazy unstable guy like 20 years before, for 20 years before that? Like, why can't they just go back to him being crazy is what I'm saying.
I think they need something to focus on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just what they chose. I mean, they could have, focused on him creating Ultron, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why they focus on that. It annoys me.
Okay. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I lived in the Marvel universe and he accidentally slaps, Janet in the middle of a mental breakdown versus creating a threat to humanity that is Ultron, I think I might be madder at the whole creating threat to humanity thing.
Yeah, that was also kind of an accident, though. He tried to turn him off, and it wouldn't turn off, so it kind of developed beyond what he had planned.
Okay, so we've talked about Ultron. We've talked about Janet. We've talked about Ultron. So that brings me to my next question, which is, how do you feel about Hank Pym in the MCU?
Mm. Can I cuss on here?
Just don't say the F word.
That's the one word I want to know. I love Michael Douglas. He is an amazing actor. And he played the role that he was written beautifully. But it's not the role that I wanted. It's not the way it should have been done. And I was very angry about it. I'm been boycotting Edgar Wright ever since, and I will for the rest of my life. I followed the news on that movie for like 7 years. I was so excited. Hank Pym was going to get a movie, and then they made him 70. I'm like,
They focused on Scott Lang.
oh God. The story, the Ant-Man movie, for what it was a decent movie. I mean, it's not one of my favorites, but it was a decent movie. But
Mm-hmm.
I hate what they did to Hank Pym. Now, I wanted the original, and I think the most annoying part about all of it is that, again, like we were saying, the thing that defines Hank Pym the most to me is that he created Ultron. That is his baby. Tony Stark and the Hulk did not create Ultron. So now I have to go around to these newbies who all of a sudden love Marvel and tell them, no, Tony Stark did not create Ultron.
Did you just go around telling people Tony Stark didn't create Ultron?
No, when we're having
Because
conversations
I can
about
imagine
them.
you. I can imagine you doing it. So so to everyone watching this, Kimberly works in a library. So I can imagine her like going up to the people.
Have in the library. People tell me about the movies, and I'm like, no. Hank Pym created Ultron, and these little fourth graders are arguing with me. And I'm like, no, you need to go home and talk to your parents because they obviously didn't raise you right.
Okay.
They need to rethink their parenting.
Not if they tell you that Tony Stark created Ultron, they're doing something wrong.
I will write you a note.
Also, wear a mask, you dumb kid.
I have to tell them that if your parents send you to school with a mask, it doesn't go around your chin. Pull it up. They like to wear it as chin guards.
You ever get those kids who put their masks on under their nose? People, you breathe through your nose too, guys. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Hank Pym is not what you wanted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
No.
If you had your way, who would have played him?
If I'd had my way, it would have what?
Who would have played him?
Ooh. I think Armie Hammer would have been a good choice. Just because he looks the part. He's tall and blonde, and he's a decent actor.
Think he could have pulled off the crazy?
I haven't seen him act in that kind of role, but I would have liked to have seen it more than what we got.
What is the ideal treatment for Janet? And like, if you were, because you wouldn't be able to do a Pym story without Janet,
Right.
Right. So how would you reinvent Janet for that particular for that particular brand?
For
Like
the movies?
I mean, if you were just going to reboot the whole thing, for example, like in the comics or whatever, how would you deal with Janet? Because the Ultimates did not do it. They kind of made it the whole thing worse.
Oh, they made it so much worse. Yeah, that was kind of insulting to the original creators of the character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing with all of the Ultimates. I mean, they flat out made Hank Pym a wife beater in that one.
They flat out made him a wife beater there because he did it multiple times and almost killed her, and it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like they are who they are, and that's what the original creators of the character wanted them to be. So I would just do them the way that they were, except I probably would have downplayed the slap because that's not the way they had originally wanted it to happen. Maybe accidentally, but I wouldn't have had him deliberately just backhand her.
But if they made the slap a defining moment, and then he's been trying to make up for that for like the rest of his life, that to me that says that he's trying really hard to be a good person. So
and he does take medication, so he knows that he's got a problem, and he does everything that he can to not let it happen again.
Also, is it realistic that Janet would stay with him? It is, right?
Well, originally they got divorced and she left, and then she came back, and she left, and then she came back, and then she left, and then
she died.
And that was the best. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I don't remember.
So there are rumors that we're getting some more flashbacks of Hank Pym in the MCU, set in the 60s. I don't know if that's true.
I've heard that.
You excited for that? No?
They usually do the CGI with Michael Douglas,
Okay.
Back in the 60s, and even when he was young, I never really saw Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. He's just too short. He just doesn't. When you watch him, portray that character, I just don't feel it.
Okay.
I mean, he's a great actor, and I'm a huge fan. I just don't feel it in him as Hank Pym.
So if they were to do the flashbacks, you would have them recast.
Army Hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Army Hammer. I'm not like saying I'm a big fan of him. I mean, he's a good actor and everything, but I just think that he would portray the character better.
Do you think the crazy thing would translate well on the screen for a bunch of people who would be watching it on Disney Plus in this hypothetical universe?
I think that the Marvel universe has done really well with the movies. They've portrayed a lot of things that a lot of people would say that they were worried wouldn't come across well on the screen. So I think if they did it, then it would come across just fine. Honestly, I don't know. I can't predict how it would play out, but I think that they could do it.
What is your favorite Hank Pym costume? That question just came to my mind just because I'm looking at your shelf there.
Yeah. I really did like the Pym Wasp. That was the one that I cosplayed as because, you know, it had the tails and it just looked really cool. It had the big goggles.
You know, my favorite one?
The big black wing things on the side, totally obstructing his peripheral vision. Who thought of that?
Completely impractical.
Like, I can't see over it.
He'll be like Batman, right? He'll be like Batman every time he needs to look to the side.
My head.
You know, my favorite Pym costume is actually the one from Avengers #1 from '98, where it's just his Ant-Man costume, but when he's Giant Man, there's no antennas, and then when he shrinks down, the antennas come out. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, now that you said that, I also really liked the is it Tales to Astonish or no? When he got his own comic in like the 70s, and he was basically just wearing white pants and a red top and the Ant-Man helmet.
What about the red jumpsuit?
The orange, was it orange jumpsuit from West Coast Avengers?
Yeah, that one.
That one made him look like a mechanic.
He had no powers in that one. So that was after his court martial.
That was several years after his court martial.
And he had no powers, like he had no powers for a while. So let's talk about his court martial. So finally, when he was court martialed, he has he's no powers. He gets recruited by Egghead, and you think, like, the fans are made to think that he's gonna take the turn into super villainy. So how cathartic was that moment for you when he takes Egghead down?
I didn't think he was going to go super villain. I kind of figured the whole time that's the way it was going to play out. So I wasn't surprised.
But did it feel really good, like being all like, yeah, it wasn't Yellowjacket, it wasn't Giant Man, it was Hank Pym?
Yeah, I also love the West Coast Avengers because he didn't have the superpowers and he was still very useful to the team.
And how do you feel about the fact that throughout that whole time, the one guy in his corner was Hawkeye?
That made me like Hawkeye a lot more. That's probably when I started liking Hawkeye, was when they became friends there.
And how do you feel about the time that much later on, Hawkeye would go on to sleep with Janet?
Oh, God, that was so stupid. I'm sorry, that was so stupid. Yeah, I honestly, I got nothing to say about that because it's just, I can't imagine that actually happening, especially when he's there in the mansion.
This is the one guy that's in your corner.
It's just, it was dumb. It was dumb.
So just gonna pretend it doesn't happen, right? So, like, just pretend it didn't happen.
It was dumb. Well, then later, I think, was it during when Hank Pym was leader of New Avengers, I think he actually talked to Hawkeye about it, and he forgave him. And
okay,
I was just like, punch him.
Okay, last two questions about Pym. The first one is, give me 3 stories for any fans who want to get into Hank Pym. Give me 3 stories that they can get. that they should read?
West Coast Avengers,
Okay.
the Age of Ultron, and the New Avengers. I really liked when he took
Or
over the school too.
you mean Mighty Avengers?
Not New Avengers, Mighty
Yeah.
Avengers. You're right.
Okay, so that's the West Coast Avengers is from the late 80s. Mighty Avengers is by Dan Slott, and Age of Ultron is more recent.
I also liked Avengers Academy. That was pretty good too.
Oh yeah, that was him. So he was a teacher, right?
Yeah, he was the dean of the school.
Okay, so what is it about size-changing superheroes that you like so much?
I don't think it's the size changing. It's that he was ridiculously smart and crazy.
But you
You know,
don't
there's
like.
always that fine line between genius and insanity, and Hank Pym likes to use that line as a tightrope. You never know which way he's going to go.
So is that why you like Hank Pym more than the Atom? Because
Yes.
he's crazier.
Yes.
Because other than that, like they're very similar characters. Okay. Last question. You work at a library.
Yes.
What are the most popular comics in said library?
Well, I started there about 2.5 years ago, and I was just a library clerk. And now I'm a certified library specialist. But we didn't have any comics at all in the library. And I talked to my supervisor, and it took me about 1.5 years to convince her to get comics in the library, because I think comics can be a gateway to reading. We have a lot of kids that they didn't want to read. So I convinced her that if we got comics, they would read it, and then they would move on to harder books. So we started out with Dogman, which was ridiculously popular. We still to this day cannot keep it in the library. It goes out the moment it comes in. And I convinced her to get 2 full sets of Bone. Those are also really popular. And Big Nate. And then since then, we tried those 3 for about 1 year, and they were insanely popular. So now we expanded, and we have Phoebe and her unicorn, Bad Guys, Newt's Verdant Squirrel, Owl Diaries, Narwhal, and Catstronauts, which Palmer loves because it's about cats in outer space. But overall, I think Dogman is still the most popular. Kids come in all the time. Do you have any Dogman? No,
Yeah,
let's check it out.
Dogman,
and we have like 20 copies.
Dogman is like the best-selling comic of like 2019, 2020. Like if you look at the sell-through numbers, it's amazing. Because I don't read Dogman clearly.
When we do Scholastic book fairs, we get like 3 boxes of Dogman, and then sometimes we have to order extras. It's very popular. I don't get it, but then again, I'm not 8.
Yeah, it seems very explicitly written for an 8-year-old.
Yes.
I had the cartoonist of Phoebe and her unicorn on the show. So that was
oh
yeah,
I saw that one.
Yeah, that was a fun interview.
I was surprised because Phoebe and her unicorn is very popular amongst the girls in the library.
Okay. All right. So Hank Pym is awesome. Is that the takeaway?
Yes, he is. He's interesting. You never know what he's gonna do.
You have anything to plug? You have anything you want to say?
Not yet.
Okay.
I am working on something, but it's coming. I'll plug it later. I'll make you do another interview so I can plug it.
Perfect. All right. Everyone click like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Comics Cube with Kimberly Smith.